Hey, beautiful soul. Welcome to Spirit Speakeasy. I'm Joy Giovanni, Joyful Medium. I'm a working psychic medium, energy healer, and spiritual gifts mentor. This podcast is like a seat at the table in a secret club, but with mediums, mystics, and the spiritual luminaries of our time. So come behind the velvet ropes with me and see inside my world as I chat insider style with profoundly gifted souls. We go deep, share juicy stories, laugh a lot, and it wouldn't be a speakeasy without great insider secrets and tips. You might even learn that you have some gifts of your own. So step inside the Spirit Speakeasy. Hey, beautiful soul. So our talk today is really unique because we have such a special opportunity to go behind the velvet ropes with Jessica, psychic medium. Her gifts include that she is a medical medium, and she really goes into detail with us about how this works for her, about how Archangel Michael came to her and became her teacher. We real talk about that. And I ask her, how did you know that it was actually him? And she is super honest and says how she was skeptical and really what she did to test it, so to speak. So that was a really fun part of the conversation. She also gives some tips for anyone that is sensitive or experiences gut issues, autoimmune issues, chronic inflammation, things like that. She talks about how that affects people that are sensitive and how that's becoming such a broad spread issue and her perspective on all of that, which is so special. And she goes into her process about scanning the layers of the aura and how she actually sees disease, illness, everything from things like autoimmune and chronic inflammation to things like cancer, heart issues, things that are missing in someone's health or wellness. So it's pretty incredible. And she goes deep into detail. And then she also really opens up about her own experience as a mother of four. Her kids are all grown now, but her two younger sons are twins and they are on the autism spectrum, and how she as a medical medium was able to understand what was going on in their health, even maybe in a different way and before the doctors could, and how that journey was for her. And then some advice for any other parents who have kids that have some medical challenges happening or just some unexplained health things, and really her guidance on how to listen to your intuition around that and how to best work with medical professionals. And we even talk about combining medical, traditional, Western medicine, doctors and medications with energy medicine and all of the different variations of that and how she views that as a medical medium. And I love Jess. I have to tell you, Jess and I are actually friends. We have worked together and developed together and have been friends for several years. And I actually had the pleasure of many years ago having a reading, like a medical medium reading with Jess. And it was such an incredible experience. Without any information from me, she was able to pinpoint issues that I've had in the past as a child, issues and traumas that have come over my life, and challenges I was currently having in my physical health, my body at the time of the reading, and guidance. She put me on a little bit of a plan. So it was pretty incredible to work with her. And because of our friendship, we really get into some tough topics and she gets honest with us about all of it. So don't miss this conversation with Jessica, psychic medium. Thanks for being here, guys, today. Let's get into it. Welcome to another episode of Spirit Speakeasy. We have a very special guest today, a medical medium. I'm going to read you her bio. Her name is Jessica, psychic medium. I'm proud to call her a colleague and friend. Jessica is a psychic, evidential medium, clairvoyant, medical intuitive, energy healer, certified astrologer, and certified sound bath healing practitioner who works in a trance state. Jessica offers insight and guidance to her clients as she tunes into the soul of their departed loved ones or their own soul. She is known to answer the questions in the heart and mind of her clients, fine-tuning what their needs are at the time of the reading. Jessica is based in Los Angeles and offers readings to clients all over the world virtually via Zoom. For more information, you can find her at jessicapsychicmedium.com, which of course we will link in the show notes. Hello, Jessica. It's so good to see you.
Hello,
Thanks
friend,
for being here with
Kelly.
us. Hello, friend.
Oh my God.
Jessica and I had to stop talking to start this recording because we could just chat for hours.
Oh, and I'm excited, by the way, for Speakeasy, Spirit Speakeasy.
Me too. Thanks. It's a very exciting new project that Spirit has been in my ear about for a good little while now. Will you tell us a little bit about your journey? Because your collection of gifts, your toolkit is just really unique and special, even among mediums.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah. So, my story was kind of inadvertent, where I wasn't one that grew up like wanting to be into spiritual and wanting to I did play with the Ouija board, but I wasn't like into, I want to be like intuitive. It was more about, I see things, I hear things. I told my family and they thought it was kind of witchy and gypsy. And in a nutshell, made me feel a bit of shame in what I can see and feel. And I shouldn't be picking up thoughts in people's heads because I'm also telepathic when I do readings. So I kind of shunned it away. I didn't want to see things and feel things. So I kept it very private. And many years later, it really actually happened when I was pregnant with my firstborn son. I had a dream, and Archangel Michael came through, said, okay, it's time to get to work on your purpose. And I'm like, oh shit. So, basically I was honed into kind of accepting, and, Archangel Michael, through meditation, because I've always meditated since I was about 10 years old. It was just for me to help through trauma, anxiety, suppression, just pain. Someone told me about meditation, I started. So in the meditation, he basically taught me how to hone in my gifts, abilities, and the psychic and the mediumship was always there, but the medical intuitive, where it is a bit unusual, where I will meet with a client, I'll look at them, I'll start scanning the aura, but then I'll go into a trance state and I'll actually see through the body, and I see it like an X-ray. So they make sure not to show me, and when I say they, spirit people, make sure not to show me the blood and the guts, because I can't handle it. I can't watch those kind of shows. No way. But Archangel Michael taught me how to discern different diseases, different ailments. And he was really my teacher. And he kind of helped me get a healing team that I have in the spirit world. They work with me when I work with energy and energy healing and looking through the body. And just over time, it was like, okay, well, what does this mean? And what does that mean? And why does this show up like this? And what does this mean in the aura? He was my teacher for about 5 years, in meditation, and just a lot of questions that I've always had. So I never really went to any formal schooling. So I guess it is a little unusual, where mediumship, I did study with Andy Bing, but I never really studied anything but that in, other than the teachers in the spirit world. So it is a little different and unique in a way, where it's kind of forced on, because I didn't really want to, even just a funny little thing. Archangel Michael said to me, you really need to stop smoking. it's affecting your energetic field because, he was explaining to me aura and energy, and to be careful not to receive, the disease and the imbalances, because, when you blend. And so I didn't know yet how to protect myself, because as healers, we need to protect ourselves, and not allow the energy to come through. So he says, you should really quit smoking. And I said, no, I don't want to quit smoking. And I still smoked. And every healing session I did, I would get sick.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I would get throat stuff, and I would get like a cold, or, nothing like major, but enough to feel that there's an energy, there's an energy blockage, or there's an opening here that I've received from their health ailment. Well, of course, the minute I stopped smoking, it all went away.
Wow.
So yeah, and I'm like, okay, fine, you were right. So if anyone ever wondered and knows about Archangel Michael, if they ever wondered, does he really have a sense of humor? Yes, he does.
Oh my goodness. Well, there's so much to unpack in what you just already said. So when you were experiencing things as a child and you maybe didn't quite know how to articulate them or know what was happening, what types of things were those? Because I think a lot of us experience things but don't, because we don't talk about it to anyone.
Yeah.
I think others don't realize, like, oh, maybe I was experiencing something. So what kind of things?
Well,
were there?
the intuition was always like, I would look over like the family members at my grandmother's table. I'd look over their head, and I would like feel what they're thinking and what's going on in their lives. And then I learned about 14, 15 years old, I could actually travel into their homes, and I would say things and they would get startled. And that's when my father would say, don't speak, don't speak about that. So that was with the intuition. And with the mediumship, I always saw spirit and people, but not in a way like I see you. Like most mediums have the similar experience where it kind of looks translucent, and then they just go in and out. It's not like they stood there and just hung out. So they would kind of appear and then disappear. And so I thought everybody could see them. So
yeah, that's the hard thing, is I think we don't know what others are perceiving. So we don't, until someone, or, lots of someones teach us that that's strange.
Yeah.
We don't know not to say it. Now, when you're talking about going into other people's homes, what I think you mean is in like through meditation, kind of,
well, I would astrally
moving
travel.
your awareness there, right? Yeah.
No, it would be like I would stare over their head, and then I would just not like physical travel, but more like see clairvoyantly what's going on in the home, and then kind of let myself travel over there and see what's going on. So it wasn't like, it's not like astral travel in the formal sense, but I was able to clairvoyantly go there. And that's what I do in my work now as well. When I do intuitive psychic readings, I go into a trance state, blend with their soul, and then there'll be some times where I'll come in and go, oh, okay, through the home. We need to move the bed. You see how it is by the window on the left. We need to move it over here. And so that can come up if it needs to come up for the reader.
Well, what's so cool is that you've taken the more taboo segments of it and really integrated it into your work so that all of your gifts can work in the way they need to for, the goal of the highest good of your sitter, your recipient. If someone doesn't know what astral travel is, can you just explain kind of a Cliff Notes version of what that means?
Yeah. Well, in a formal sense, it's really in a meditative altered state where you're able to kind of guide your soul and clairvoyantly see pictures of a place that's not where you presently are at the time.
Yeah, that's a great way to explain it. And we all, nothing to be alarmed about. We all astral travel all the time in our dreams,
we do in
sometimes,
our dreams.
in our in our non-waking state.
And,
It's just,
and even
some people have a special gift to do it in the waking.
Yes. Even those that are not psychic, we're all intuitive. We all have our intuition. So even all of us travel in our dream state. We're just not always aware of it, but we, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I love that you said that. I'm with you. I believe we all have intuitive abilities and they can be
Oh my God.
sharpened or honed,
Yes.
you know, but we have them naturally as a part of our
I feel that
senses.
with 99% of my clients, I'm like, you are intuitive, but this is where it's suppressed and this is where it opens, and using these tools and this skill set or this creative avenue for you will open it up more, because we all have it. Yeah.
Yeah. And when you say someone explained to you at 10 about meditation, what did meditation look like for you then, obviously at that age of newly starting to understand, and what does it look like for you now?
Yeah, it was my grandmother's sister. She told me that it may help me, and she basically just said, close your eyes and think of really like a happy place and just focus on that area and just gently breathe. Just do some gentle breathing, close your eyes. And that's what I was doing when I was a little girl. And then I learned more about mindful meditation. And then later over the years, I learned transcendental meditation. And I just feel like more of transcendental meditation works better for me than to focus on something. I just feel like a little bit of a deeper, but whatever works for, you know, for the person. But yeah, that's how I started, just focusing on a happy place, a field of grass with flowers.
Was it always the same place?
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. And you bring up such a good point that it doesn't have to look just one way, and that we are ever changing and evolving, so it can grow with us and change with us, or it can be the same, whatever works for the individual.
Yeah, I just felt like for my childhood and my upbringing, it was a safe space for me.
Oh, that's perfect. And I think it's a great way for anyone to start, just to, like you said, breathe comfortably, gently, and just imagine.
Just with your eyes
and be
closed
there.
And just allow yourself to feel whatever comes through. There's no set way, you know, if you're just looking to kind of calm and ground and center. Yeah.
How did you know that it was Archangel Michael that came into this meditation once that happened? Did he introduce himself?
Well, he came in the dream.
Oh, in the dream. That's
right. He came in the dream and he presented himself saying Archangel Michael, but I didn't see a depiction of an angel with wings as we know. It was just a blue ball of light. That's all it was in the dream. And he actually showed me, my firstborn son, what he's going to look like at the age of 1.5 years old.
Wow.
He actually showed me what he's going to look like sitting on the carpet. And he said, that's when we're going to start our work. Well, I didn't know what that meant, but at the age of 1.5 was when I left his dad and I moved back in with my mom. And that's when things started to happen, because I had a good friend who injured her disc and her back, and she couldn't get out of bed. And so I knew that I had healing abilities. So I said, you know what, don't tell anyone, but I think I can help you. So I came over, I helped her. She was able to get out of bed in a couple of days, and she told everyone. And I told her.
So much for don't tell anyone.
I'm like, don't tell anyone. She told everyone. So it was within that 6 months that I moved back with my mom, that in the meditation, he showed up. I started getting people calling me, oh, you healed Leah, you know, I need some help. It all started just so quickly. It was a little overwhelming. Wow. But when the ball of light, I said, how do I know, just to share another story about Michael and how I knew it was really him. I said, well, you know, because I've always been a skeptical person. I said, well, how do I know this is really Archangel Michael? You know, so he showed me like this really tall image. He said, okay, the human mind needs to see the form of an angel. Okay. So he showed himself, but he was very tall, very tall. And I said, okay, but that could be my imagination. You know, here I am challenging. And I feel like everyone should, because, you
Yeah.
know, why not? So I said, okay, if this is really Archangel Michael and this is really part of my purpose, I want the phone to ring tonight at 7:37 p.m. Exactly at 7:37 p.m. And we had landlines back then. I'm not going to reveal my age, Joy, but we had landlines. So 7:37 comes around, and it was shortly after the UPS delivered books for me. Delivered them. I look at the time, it was like 7:15, and I was like, oh, okay, let's see. And 7:37, my grandmother calls. I'll never forget. I was doing the laundry in the basement. She calls and says, oh, dear, I meant to call my sister. Sorry. Okay, I'll talk to you later. And tell your mom I'll call later. And I was like,
wow.
I was like, okay, fine. That's what I said.
Still not impressed, right? I mean, you make a lot of good points. It really is important to have an open-minded skepticism. I don't just believe anything or go down any road. Really
I'm not. Do your due diligence. I'm not one to just believe, and and that's actually a good thing, I think, in my medical intuitive work, because I do so much medical research. I read the published trials and the clinical trials and the medical journals. I'm not just a medical intuitive where it's just about the energy, because I'm a big believer, and Archangel Michael taught me, is to use the medicine of conventional as well as the medicine of spirit. And so I use both together, and I integrate. And sometimes I use plant herbal medicines, you know, adaptogens or whatever other medicines, that it has to be what works for the person. It may just be energy for trauma, or it could just be like supplements, you know, and just getting the right one. So I feel like it's very important for me to use both. So I'm glad that I am a skeptic, because that way I say, okay, you tell me this supplement's good. Let me do the research. Let me really see how good this is and what it can do and what it targets. So I put that into my practice.
Well, and it sounds like as things just started to unfold and people were coming to you, you really started to know, like, okay, I have to be researching, understanding these conditions, understanding
what I'm seeing,
you know, how this works. Yeah. And then I love that I know you, so I know this already, but I love that we're on the same page, that there's a place for Western medicine, you know, doctors and medicine. And then there's a place for energy healing. There's a place for supplements. There's a place for nutrition.
I would never say
holistic.
I would never say to a client, don't do antibiotics because it's not pure. Never. Because there's a place for every, you know, it's just a matter of, is it wasteful or is it useful? And does your body, you know, is it able to receive it? And like I always say to my clients with medical intuitive, you're a custom made vehicle. You know, what's right for another car's engine may not be right for your engine. And just because you heard that dairy is good for you and makes your bones strong doesn't mean it's good for you. So that's really important, that sometimes the Western works and sometimes it absolutely doesn't. Yeah.
I think it's a great point too, that there are so many elements to our total wellness as a person, that it's fair, even if someone's undergoing some sort of treatment with a doctor, it's also fair to assess things like nutrition and, you know, things that we're taking into the body and our environment, and all of that is affecting us. So I know you said that that this intuition comes to you and you see the body like an X-ray. And I actually have received a medical intuitive session from you many years ago, which I think you remember. We were talking about it then, but I just find it so fascinating the way that you process the information. Will you talk a little bit more about that, how that started and how it is now, if it's the same?
Yeah, so it's a little different now. That's a great question, because when I used to do, before COVID, I used to do them in person. So I would look through the body, start with the aura, start with the different levels of aura, because we have not just the physical. We have the emotional, the etheric. So I need to look through all of that. And then I go into the physical body, and I'm in a trance state because I have my healing team, and they're kind of like helping me guide, and their spirit guides. And because there are times where I'm not allowed to treat or heal their ailment, and I'll tell them I'm not allowed to, there's a contract here. I can't be part of that. But when I can, I'll go through the body and I'll make mental notes, and then I'll write them all down when I'm done, from the brain down to the main organs and the feet. But after COVID, I had to do things on Zoom. So I was like, I don't know, how am I going to do this? So, and I'm like, well, I know I could still do it, but I can't do it in the same way. So with Zoom, I would be in a semi-trance state. So I would go into a trance state and then stay in a kind of trance state with my eyes open, start with the aura, the brain, and start looking through on Zoom.
Wow.
and go through, and then go through a section, open it, write notes, go back, go through a section, write notes, and then give a follow-up email with all my notes and protocol. Whereas,
That's pretty
before
amazing.
Zoom, it would be, we would sit down, we would discuss all the notes, and I would be recording it and giving them the protocol right then and there. So it's just a little different doing it post-COVID. Yeah.
I love that, because when we worked together as in person and you weren't quite doing Zoom yet, and we had talked about maybe there's a way to do it, and you just were like, nah, I just want to do it in person. So it's interesting how things like that can challenge our gifts and help us to grow.
I doubted myself. I did. I doubted whether,
well,
how to, because when you're doing something a certain way, I mean, we are still human, I mean, I may have abilities, but I'm still a human. Like I still, I'm like comfortable in certain things. So yeah, I was definitely out of the comfort zone.
I love that though, because it really is a testament to that you're continuing to stretch yourself and to grow and to figure things out, and that there is this, we talk about it a lot on the show, but that there is this element of personal development that needs to stay in play. And when you're feeling, you're kind of having to self-evaluate, like, am I resisting this because it's not right? Or am I resisting this because I'm scared of putting myself out there in this way or learning this new thing or whatever it is? So it goes to your dedication to this gift, which is so special.
And it's really been the same, other than doing the energy healing, because for me, and we're all unique, but for me, I need to be there in their energetic presence to offer my healing. I can't do it through the Zoom. So what I do now is I'll scan the body, I'll hone in, and I'll do the protocol and the note taking. Yeah, so we'll do it like that, a little differently.
I love it. And what types of ailments, challenges, conditions are you aware of? I know it's all of them, really, that right?
Question. What has been coming up a lot is a lot of the body seeming like it's autoimmune, but it's not. And so that's been coming up a lot. And there's always the gut issues. Gut issues is very common. But that has been coming up a lot with the autoimmune, with this chronic inflammation. And I feel like, there's so many environmental toxins, and there's just so many things that we don't even realize, that goes into our food and the environment and all these little things. And I feel like it just builds up, and I see that a lot.
That's so true. And so many people that are sensitives also seem to have some version of what is termed an autoimmune issue. Do you have any, obviously it's a case-by-case basis, and if someone wants a personal assessment, they're going to need to contact you through your website. But just as a general advice, do you have any advice for sensitives and non-sensitives who are having some sort of either autoimmune related or chronic inflammation or gut health related challenge?
One thing that if we weren't able to really fine tune and customize, I would say sweat. And I know that sounds really strange, but
No, not at
if you
all.
can get into an infrared sauna, if you can go on a very challenging hike or go for a jog, anything that will produce a sweat for at least 15 minutes. And the reason why I say that is, and that's why exercise makes us feel so good, because exercise actually clinically reduces inflammation. That's just what it does. So by sweating, or if we can't exercise, if there are some health reasons, health complications, we can go into a sauna, even 20 minutes. That sweat will help the inflammation in the body, help us open up our detox pathways, push our lymphatic system to help kind of alleviate the burden of any toxins in the body. So sweat's a big thing. Yeah.
Wow, I love that. And then, of course, hydration
Yes.
to go along with all of that sweating.
Hydration
right?
and electrolyte powder to make sure you get your potassium and your minerals. Absolutely. Thank you, Joy. Yes.
Of course, we want everyone to check with their doctor before beginning any new exercise program, regime, insert here. Make sure, if you've got something going on, do check with your physician. But as a general
just a
statement,
general sweat is just very helpful. Absolutely.
Oh, that's great advice. Now, there's a couple of things I want you to still talk about. I feel like there's so much I want to get further into. You mentioned something about when you're blending your energy with someone else, a client or recipient, that you need to protect your energy to not take on any sickness. Can you just talk a little bit more about that? Because I know it tends to be a big fear for people that they're going to, pick up energy or carry other people's energy. But will you just explain a little more about that?
You said that, because I actually had a reading for a client that was so concerned, because I said to her, you could feel spirit. You have the ability to be like, a medium. And she's like, oh my God, yes, but I'm afraid. And so, first of all, I don't believe in possessed or getting possessed. That I don't believe, there's no hell. So I don't know where we would get possessed. The angels, great. I love that. But, but as far as like, if we're sensitives or empaths, where we feel, like a buildup or it's too much, that also goes back to the sweat, because it's very much about the grounding. And so if we're feeling like it's just too much for us, that could be a grounding issue where we need to really get, into the earth and center, and sweat helps with that, and I know a lot of people say grounding meditation, but I find for a lot of people, they really don't know how to do that. It's not that easy. So sweat is a really good thing to do, or even using the crystals. Crystals are also a really great, like, I'll show you my black tourmaline. Yeah.
That's a beautiful one. For anyone who's only listening, it's just a palm-sized hunk of really beautiful black stone
and
that
she's
got.
That very much helps for grounding or any energies that just feel too much. I don't know if I went off on your question, Joy.
No, that's great. So really, just anyone who is feeling energetically sensitive, those are some good tools. The sweating, anything
tourmaline, know how to do.
Black
very much
great.
For like an empath or someone that's just sensitive even to electromagnetic fields, because raw black tourmaline is actually a deflector of electromagnetic fields, and a lot of empaths have trouble with that because there is so much of that we have in the world.
I've got a little tiny one right here, actually. That's
any little bit does the job. I love it. I love it.
But I love that you're saying what I think you're saying anyway. Let me check with you. Is that we don't need to be scared about doing any sort of, development or anything that we're training to do. It's okay because there's only a light source and
because
positive
you have your
forces.
spirit guides, you have this beautiful divine universe. And so long as your intention is love, I feel like that love is going to just like get thrown right back at you. I'm just such a believer in that. And even if there's something negative you see in a client, for someone who's starting out, and you see something negative and you want to say, just think about how you would want it said to you, and how you would want it
Yeah.
to be handled. And just always think about how you would feel. And I feel like the universe would never, um, kind of disappoint you. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm just like that kind of like trust. I'm skeptical with like something, but then with the universe, I know that it's only love and abundance and joy. Yeah.
I agree. And I think what you mean when you're saying if someone's newer and they have information that is scary, I don't think, because I know that scary information doesn't really come out in the way people think, quote unquote, scary. It would be more if we're aware that someone's having a challenge in their relationship, for example, or like, how would you want someone to say that
Yes.
to you? Is that
Yeah.
what you mean?
Or starting out, meaning like if they're not sure if they are experienced enough or how to handle hard situations with clients. So that's what I'm referring to. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great tip. Now, you were talking about, I'm so interested, I want to go back to it, on how you do your energetic scan, whether it's in person in a full trance state or on Zoom in a partial trance state. What are the layers of the aura as you perceive them, and how many are there?
The way I see 7 layers. That's what I was taught by Archangel Michael. And I can determine what kind of ailments and their family history, past history, through the auras. Because the aura holds all the history, where the soul holds the history of the self. So that's how I see it. And I interpret, and, over time and doing this, doing this a little bit, I'm able to see family history and health ailments in the family. I'm able to see the childhood issues. Like a medical intuitive client today, I saw when she was 10 years old, the abandonment and the shock and that sort of thing. So I'm able to see that through the auric field.
So things that would affect a person's
in the emotional
health,
right.
stay
so
in the
I
aura.
see those things that would affect. It could affect the physical body, but the emotional auric field, like it would be sitting in those areas, just like trauma could sit in the auric field, like say around the sacral chakra. So it's not in the physical body, like the way we would see the heart and the lungs and the intestines, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does actually. And it's really fascinating because I think that the auric field is largely misunderstood in a general way, just because we don't know exactly what it is. I tend to explain it on a very basic level to people as their personal space bubble, because I think a lot of us can feel that energy around us if we identify it as, like when someone stands too close to you in line and that they're in your bubble, they're in your auric field. That's why you're uncomfortable. So what do you do once you have this information? How do you piece it together with those different layers of understanding to, I guess, report it to them in a way that they can then choose what to do with that information?
At why it's being presented and how it's linked to the physical health ailment that I'm seeing. So if I'm seeing, for example, like HPA axis, which is the hypothalamus pituitary adrenal axis, that works together. If I see that needs support, and I see something that went on in the childhood, some form of a trauma, I'll see that has affected the HPA axis. So now I know there's also sleep issues here. There probably could be parasympathetic nervous system ailments or inconsistencies. So the way my head works is I'm very much of like, put the pieces together. And this also Oh, actually, my twin boys who have autism actually helped strengthen putting pieces together
Wow.
because of their neurological disorder, in treating them and bettering them in their state of being, that it helped me over especially the last 15 years, put pieces together. With talking all the doctors that I've spoken to over the years, that they help me understand how they link things. So I would take the link from the spirit world of the auric fields, that's not conventional medicine, and then link it with and then I just have a natural way of like kind of putting pieces together. And I guess you can say it's in my birth
part of your
chart.
gift, right? Yes, I'm coming on to that in just a minute, but I want to talk a little bit about the boys. So were you, as a mom of kids who have additional atypical needs, or, who, as you started to understand all of the different medical aspects to what their challenges are, were you able to use your own gifts to help you navigate this and kind of look at them on your own? And then as you took them, I think you'll be okay with me sharing this. I know that they have lots of wonderful specialists that you have sought out over the years. Were you able to kind of take what you knew intuitively and then present it to the doctor for additional information? Were you doing some of that?
That's how I would work. And I would psychically choose the doctors that I knew would be open. So I was always presented with the best doctors who were actually open, because I had to use, it was my fight or flight mode. So.
Yeah. And it's so close to your own heart too. So I feel like that would be something that you obviously really want to dial in on. So if you were talking to another mom that maybe doesn't have the extensive training and level of gifts that you have, what would you encourage them around a child who maybe has additional needs or considerations with their own intuition, if they feel like they're not so intuitive at all?
You mean how to help them?
Yeah, maybe either how to help them understand, to trust a little bit more in maybe what their intuition's nudging them towards, to even move it further.
I'd say
to
mother's
a doctor.
instinct is a powerful thing, and to never underestimate that. And just to kind of look at behaviors and see, what's the worst, or what's the one that comes up the most, and then go with your research and let the main trigger behaviors lead your research and to get the answers. And I'm a big believer in asking the universe for support, and prayer. I feel that
I love that.
And just reaching out to my spirit team, help me bring them in, help me find the answers. Because for me, it wasn't as easy with my twins, because there's an emotional component. So I'm going to second guess myself, because I'm a mom, and I'm a mom first and foremost. Whereas with clients, there's no emotional second guessing. I just fully am a channel. So that was kind of hard, where I'm like, but I would say, okay, no, I feel that. And they would be on board with me. And then when we would do the tests, it was like, oh, wow, we really hit on something. And that helped us treat a lot of behaviors over the years.
That's so great. I think that's great advice. I mean, for parents, but also for anyone who is dealing with a challenge that they need to
even
get
any
better
physical
from doctors.
But to kind of trust. And if it doesn't feel right, just trust that, because just because it's a medical doctor doesn't mean it's the information for you. Like I said, custom vehicle, because a lot of people, they give their whole selves into the medicine, and they don't really do the research. And so that's where I come in. You know, my clients are usually the ones that have been to all the doctors, the last resort. They can't understand why, because, you know, sometimes we put so much trust when we can kind of read about it and, you know, really pay attention to what we're eating and what we're doing and our stress and our trauma. It all plays a role. Yeah.
Well, you bring up another great point that often by the time someone is seeing a medium, they have exhausted lots of other options and are really hoping
Right.
for a miracle a little bit, you know, especially medical mediumship, which is so incredible. Now, how does all of your astrological knowledge tie into all this? Was that like a safe space for you to dabble when you weren't really dabbling?
I've always
loved
loved astrology, and I had a good friend who loved astrology too. So we took a class where they mail you cassettes and you have to write in a workbook.
Oh my gosh.
I'm not going to reveal the year, but you use your imagination. And so I studied astrology. I did it for my friends and I did charts and I just loved it. That was back when we would actually calculate by hand. Now there's programs.
Yeah, now there's programs.
But those are separate readings for the charts. I don't ask for charts for like psychic reading or mediumship or medical intuition. Those are like the charts if somebody wants to really get a better understanding of their blueprint and their strengths, their weaknesses, their karma, and, you know, what are their strong suits and that sort of thing, where they don't really want it in a psychic reading. They just want like the blueprint. Then the astrology reading is perfect. And then there are also like synastry charts where you can do a chart with a loved one or a family member or a potential boyfriend or a girlfriend, that you could see how your planets line up and what the dynamics would be together in a synastry. And then the composite chart would be as if the two of you had a baby, which is the relationship, and that would show in the composite chart, you know, just what the relationship shows.
Which is so cool.
In like the destiny of the relationship, where the synastry is more of how you would be with each other, the dynamics, kind of like the ingredients in the cake, you know, batter, and then the composite is how the cake would come out.
Which is such a fun way to investigate any situation that you're in. I think it's just so
I meet.
I'm sure you are. You are such a great astrologer, just naturally. You kind of just speak that way. I know like I said, we've been friends for a while. But the cool thing is, I think what a lot of people don't realize that I didn't used to understand was that astrology isn't just what we see in, well, I guess it's not newspaper anymore, but what we might see in a blog. It's so much deeper than that. And doing someone's personal individual chart. I mean, I've had an astrology reading where it was so specific to even tell me which physical organs could have a tendency towards weakness.
Yes, because there's also medical astrology, and I love that. It does.
That's what I was going to say. God. It must be fascinating, that marriage for you.
It's the blueprint of who you are, who you came here to be. So I still look at my own chart and still discover stuff. There's so much to, you know, for people that love to like, you know, personal development and self-development and that growth and, you know, really expressing as much of your soul and your purpose, then astrology for sure is for them.
It's so incredible because it really can, just like anything, there are people who are amazing astrologers and people who are not so much. So do your due diligence. Jessica's great. But you know, there's so much to look at and to consider, and that it even can help someone understand the potentials that they're living into or growing into. Absolutely. And it's not just
it could also
what colors
help
we like
show
and
why a person has the patterns or the difficulties or the challenges that they have in their life, or the spiritual work that they came here to do is also in the chart. Past lives can be seen in the chart. Your talents, you know, can be seen in the chart. I mean, so much. Even like how you handle stress and emotions shows in the chart. You know, that would be like your
Yeah.
moon and Mars, how you handle actions in stressful situations. So it's really, there's a lot in astrology.
Well, and that's the great thing is, I mean, some people get a little frustrated with astrology and think like, oh, well, it's this map
It's
and it
not the
means that things
daily
are already
horoscope.
pre-planned, and it's really not. Yeah, no, it's not at all. And it does give this amazing window into just more deeply understanding
Absolutely.
ourselves to know, okay, this project that I want to create, here are my personal
Yeah.
challenges, here are the areas that I am really strong, so that someone could use that information to strengthen themselves or to better strategize
Absolutely.
the life that they want to
And you
create,
can even
which
do
is my favorite part about
transits
it.
and progressive and see what's coming forward and your solar return chart. I mean, there's just so many different levels of exploring your unique you, for sure.
Well, and it's always changing because
And we're
the
always,
planets
yeah,
are always changing, the alignments are always
we're always changing.
changing, we're always changing. Yeah,
Yes.
the world's always, things are always, everything's always changing. Nothing is static. Do people ever just come to you once in a while for almost like a
Yes,
checkup?
I get that very often. I have a lot of regular clients that love to come and check in, you know, exactly like that, you know, and
Yeah. So people don't have to wait till they're sick and desperate to come see you. They could come see you just more like
absolutely.
preventatively, or what can I
Or they'll
strengthen
like do
within myself?
follow-ups, and you know,
That's
they've
great.
relieved many, like, you know, we've already treated a lot, but they just want to make sure that everything is good. Yes. Yeah.
That's so great. And then they can, because really, I know that your work is largely about empowering people to be able to have a say in living their best, most healthy life. So it really puts the power back into their hands to be able to know, okay, here's what I could do preventatively, even not just always, not just always when someone is unwell. Well, thank you for really just letting me ask you 100 questions about your gift. Are you up for doing some spirit speed round?
Yay! Let's do it.
All right. So question 1, share one thing that really shocked you or was unexpected about your gifts, any one of your gifts.
That I was able to be in a state where I can go and kind of travel and see in homes, or travel, you know, to another country and see it without being there. So that was like, whoa.
I bet that's, and be right?
Yeah.
Be correct.
Yeah.
I bet that was pretty shocking. Okay, question 2. If you got to spend a day in the spirit world, you got the full tour, you got to spend time with everyone you've ever known who's crossed over, and it's almost time to return to your life, but your guide tells you you have 1 hour left and you can spend it with anyone who's on the other side, who do you choose and why?
I'd have to say my maternal grandmother, because I feel since she crossed over, I know her better than when she was alive. And I would just want to reconnect and get to know her better. Because when she was alive, there was just so much going on in her life that we couldn't really get close. So I'd spend it with her.
I love that answer.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so nice. And it is a good little side note for people that often through mediumship, whether someone is a medium or they're receiving readings from a medium, a lot of healing can come about that wasn't able to happen in this lifetime.
Oh,
so
yeah.
we know that too well. Okay, question 3. Even though we have spiritual gifts, we have very human lives. What's one quirky thing about you that people might be surprised to know?
Well, I'm a little OCD with going to the gym and making sure I sweat, and that I drink about 6 shots of espresso a day.
Well, now we know why, with all that like aura cleansing and system cleansing, and we got to get the sweat. So now we all know why you're like that.
If I don't sweat, I really start to feel heavy gunk. Yeah. And the espresso.
So interesting. Well, little side thing. Well, I guess we know it is not, it's okay for us maybe then. to have.
That's a surprising thing for a lot of people. They don't realize I drink so much espresso, but it's all
Well,
good.
no wonder you have so much energy. Okay, leave us with one pearl of wisdom. What's one piece of advice that you wish you'd gotten earlier in your understanding of your gifts?
One piece of advice that I wish I got. Love yourself more today than you did yesterday. I just feel like, just for me and my personal resonance is always to remember, that I'm a being of light, and to love myself each and every day, more and every day. And to be able to do the
Wow.
work that I do, I feel the more I love myself, the more I can give that and let that love come through to those I work with.
I think that's really powerful advice for anyone who is alive, to love yourself just a little bit more each day. It doesn't mean you have to like all the things, but
Right.
just to give yourself
That
that love. Wow, that's
that acceptance.
yeah, that's a really beautiful sentiment. Well, thank you so much for being here and sharing all of your gifts with us. You are a truly profoundly gifted soul, and I am lucky to know you.
Thank you.
You can connect with Jessica on her website. We will link everything in the show notes. It's Jessica Psychic Medium across most platforms, and jessicapsychicmedium.com.
Yes, that's right.
Perfect. And I will put all the links up so you can easily find her. A really incredible and profound experience, just as someone who's received a medical intuitive mediumship reading from you. It's pretty amazing. Without telling you any information, just the really nuanced things that you knew about my history and my challenges I was having at the time. And I'm sure it'd be different because that's been 5 or 6 years ago at least now. So I'm sure it'd be different now, but really, that's my little review. Highly recommend.
Thank you so much.
Even if you just want to check up, it's just an incredible, profound gift. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Really appreciate you.
This was so exciting.
Of course.
Thank you so much, Joy.
Lots of love, and we will talk to you soon. Bye. Dang, guys. Deep breath. We all have these physical bodies, and it's pretty incredible, these gifts that Jess has, to be able to look into the body and the auric field and help people to become well and whole and to feel better. And I guess we all have our marching orders. Y'all know I love some action steps, and we got to get out there and get sweating to move towards our ideal health. So that's a challenge for all of us. I'm definitely going to hop in on that challenge. Of course, I will link all of Jess's social media and website and all of that in the show notes. And you can also find the full transcript of the episode on my website, joyfulmedium.com/blog, where all of the links will also be, and the full video and written transcript of this episode. And remember, you can still get access to my free signs mini course, Sign Magnet. So if you are someone that's starting to learn to work with your intuition, wanting to experience clear signs, maybe you're starting to see numbers, maybe you see recurring numbers, 1111, 333, 222, maybe you're wanting to get hellos and love from the spirit world, someone that you lost, this workshop is for you. It's totally free. So head on over to joyfulmedium.com. Right on the homepage, you can just enter your email and start seeing the lessons immediately. They're sent directly to your email, but you get access to the first one right away. And let me know how you guys are liking the science course, because really, as Jess and I were talking about, we all do have intuitive abilities and can trust our intuition, but we all also have access to guides into the spirit world and, more than just this physical experience. I love that Jess really opened up, and she's a good friend and just an incredible human being, which is why, as I mentioned, I had a reading from her and I just knew that I had to share her gifts with you when I was creating the list of who I absolutely wanted on this podcast. So I hope that you enjoyed her perspectives. And how often do we get to ask questions about our own health and wellness to a medical medium, which is so cool. I so appreciate her being here and really just being so open and letting me ask her some really tough and pointed questions. So I hope you guys enjoyed this conversation. As always, thank you so much for being here. Big hugs and bye for now.